So, at the beginning, first of all, hi, yeah, there's the secret. I saw Detective Pikachu 7 months ago. The Detective Pikachu that I saw was wildly different. Not like content-wise, well, in content-wise, not in story-wise, but in the way I saw it. So it was very unfinished, okay? Like, incredibly unfinished. Pokemon were naked, you know, there were things that there were very small things that were cut out that I remember. That experience paired nicely with a different experience of going to Detective Pikachu, where I got to see it with the director, and we got to do a Q&A. And in the Q&A, we got to learn a bunch of new information. So I was able to like flesh out my test screening experience with more information that I will share now and later. So yeah, I saw Detective Pikachu 7 months ago. I remember I got the invite, and then I had to like drive there, and I hit so much traffic. I got there just in time. I was allowed a +1, so I invited my friend. I'm like, you better stay in line for me because there's no way we're missing this, right? So we get in there, and I don't remember who it was, but I'm pretty sure it was the director who like ushered us in and was like, okay, this is the rules, this is how it's gonna be, you know. Pretty sure it was the director. Okay, so he's up on stage. We're all sitting down, you know, I got in safely, right? We're all sitting down, he's up on stage, and he's like, alright, what you're gonna see is an incredibly unfinished movie, okay? Like, nothing's done, you're not gonna see, all the CG effects are in, like, flux, you know, we basically just want you to enjoy the movie while keeping that in mind, and then, you know, we're gonna ask you questions at the end. So we get into the test screening, right? And, at the beginning, alright, we got to see, like, this trailer of the movie before the movie, and it was like a custom trailer to our experience, and it was like the CinemaSins, I don't remember if that's the right guy, but like the narrator, you know, like the YouTube narrator guy that goes like, in a world, like that guy, he was the one talking, and he's like, this is, you know, like, you're gonna see Pokemon, you know, in the Pokemon world, but not all of them are gonna be full or like fully rendered or whatever else. And so the very first shot we see, okay, you have to realize this happened before any of the trailers. Like, any of the trailers. Okay? I had no idea what the Pokemon were going to look like. I had, you know, like, it could have been terrible. It could have been Sonic, you know, like a Sonic movie. It could have been anything, right? Anyways, I lean back, right? And I'm, like, scared, terrified, you know, like, so excited. Like, on the verge of, like, tearing up before it even started. And then you see that opening shot. At the beginning of the trailer, you see the opening shot of Rhyme City, right? And you see, like, the Charmander, like, walking by and stuff like that. And that scene was, to my knowledge, finished. I don't think it had all of the different Pokemon that were in there in the final movie, but all the Pokemon that were in there were finished, okay? So we got to see this it was the very first time I saw anything, and it's just, like, instant, not like tears rolling down my face, but like I was like welling up with emotions. It was the coolest thing, right? So after that, you know, like they kind of do like a wiping thing where they like show like, you know, the Charmander walking by, and then I don't know if it showed the Charmander walking by again, but like as the Pokemon are walking by, it's like a screen wipe, and they have less detail, and another screen wipe, and they have, you know, even less detail, and they're just blobs now, right? And then, like, some of them are, like, you know, people holding little balls next to them where the Pokemon are gonna be later, right? So it's, like, live-action shot, and they just have, like, little puppets or balls or whatever that Pokemon get filled in with later. As the movie started, you know, we kind of have an idea of what's gonna take place. You know, we're not gonna see everything finished, you know, whatever else, said that a million times. The very first shot, if you've seen the movie, which, if you're still here, you have seen the movie, the very first shot was the camera like going through a mountain range and then panning over a laboratory, right? Like it's in the trailer and everything. We kind of like were prepared for how unfinished this movie was, but I don't think anything prepared us for the camera to like dramatically go through a mountain range and then around the corner suddenly, in the most dramatic way possible, reveal what's essentially like a piece of paper floating on the ground with a drawing of a laboratory on it. It was the most hilarious thing the entire theater has ever seen in their lives was this laboratory, right? Like, it just looks so, like, I mean, it wasn't like a piece of paper with like a drawing on it, but it was the equivalent of that. And it just cracked up everybody. And like, that moment forward was like a roller coaster of a movie. Just stuff like that, back to back to back to back. Just the most unintentional, funny things ever. But the mood of the movie didn't make it bad, right? Like, if you had seen, like, Avengers, which we won't spoil, but if you had seen Avengers with, like, unfinished effects, you know, I feel like you'd lose a little bit of something. But all of the different, you know, placeholders or what have you that took place in this movie just enhanced the crud out of it, man. Like, it was the best movie-going experience I've had in forever. I just ate it up. Something important to point out, I was not gonna miss out on, like, the Detective Pikachu train. If you're here, you know that I just, like, latched onto that thing and just wrote it. Every single trailer, every single, like, tweet, like, everything. Merchandise, I was talking about it like crazy. I signed an NDA at the beginning, right? Like, I wasn't allowed to talk about anything I saw in the movie. So, every single time a trailer came out, I refused, like, mentally, I didn't tell anybody about this, but I refused to just talk about anything that could be construed as, like, something I would have prior knowledge to, right? So, I was so careful. But what was nice about seeing an unfinished movie, right, is that I didn't know what Pikachu was gonna look like. Like, Pikachu to me, for half the movie, was this naked, like, yellow blob with, like, if you've seen the original Detective Pikachu, like, footage of, like, mocap face and then, like, Pikachu's, like, face, like, opening up and, like, looking like an alien, that's what I got to see the entire movie. Sometimes Pikachu was a puppet. Sometimes Pikachu was a little dot on the ground, like a little light on the ground that Tim was following, right? It just wasn't. When everybody saw Pikachu, it was the first time I saw Pikachu. And I, you know, obviously blown away like everyone else. Pikachu, and this version of Pikachu is either my first or second favorite interpretation of Pikachu by far. The only thing that I really wanted to talk about, that I had to wait until it got shown off in a trailer, was that all the Pokemon are, like, interpreted as different, with different amounts of, like, realism, right? There was one realistic detail that I would just, like, could not wait to talk about, and I wasn't even sure it was in the movie still. Like, it could have been taken out. But because I got to see Pikachu naked, I got to see that Pikachu's ears were just like bunny ears, right? Like, they had holes, kind of tucked behind Pikachu's, like, here, I just have a Pikachu right here. They were kind of tucked, like, under here, right? I got to see that the entire movie. But then when the first trailer came out and Pikachu had fur all of a sudden, which I wasn't expecting for Pikachu to have that much fur, right? When I saw that, I was like, is it even still there? And that's because Pikachu's fur makes the round ears part, right? But it wasn't until, like, the second or third trailer that I finally saw that Pikachu still had the ear holes. And I was like, okay, I can talk about this now. So that was probably the only, like, like, I still waited till it was visible, but I knew what I was looking for, right? Like, I was searching that out. But other than that, I kept to the NDA. I mean, like, I was too nervous, despite the fact that it came out in the public in Japan, I was too nervous to talk about this even then, right? So now I'm just going to get into the stuff that was, like, significantly different, right? So, the pacing. The pacing, when I went to the director's Q&A, he even mentioned this then. He said that the biggest thing they really changed was the pacing. And I'm not entirely sure it's still, like, the greatest. Like, I personally understand the movie because I've seen it so many times at this point. But I feel like a lot of people and a lot of reviews lately are that the pacing is kind of fast, right? It was really fast in the version that I saw. Like, you didn't quite get from point A to point B as smoothly as possible. I don't know if fast is the right way to describe it. It was more like a lot of tripping up, right? Like, when you get from all of the you know, the kind of detective parts at the beginning, and then you kind of transition over to like we know who the bad guy is, or we're about to learn who the bad guy is, and now it's a Mewtwo movie. It wasn't very graceful, and that was like the only complaint that I had about the movie. And like the content of the story didn't really change. It did feel like it flowed into that second section a lot better when I saw the movie, like the final movie. But that also might be because I knew where the movie was going, so I might have like understood it a little bit better, right? But so I can't tell you if that's what I know pacing changes were made. I don't know where they were made at, because my memory is not as good as I'd like it to be for that 7-month gap, right? So that was probably the thing that the director said, Rob Letterman said, that was focused on the most, was the pacing. He actually talked more about the fact that he doesn't cut a long movie. He cuts short and then extends. So his draft cut was like very, very, very tight, and they actually extended it a little bit more. So I assumed that things were kind of smoothed out by extending scenes, maybe a little bit more dialogue, maybe a little more descriptions, whatever, what have you, to make it a little bit better. So probably my only complaint about the movie. The Lickitung, I got to see the like thing on a stick. I think it was a thing on a stick. Lickitung was still there, right? But I got to see where it connected to Justice Smith's face, right? Like, how, like, there's an interview and people are like, whoa, that's cool to find out. I knew about that forever ago, right? Like, I knew where it connected. That whole train scene, none of that was real. Like, it's just, like, an insane amount of that was not real. Like, I feel like maybe him in the chair was real. So, like, it shows people in the train. All, like, CG people are composited in later. The newspaper where he looks and sees like the news about his father's accident. It's just a piece of paper with like floating words. Like, think of like how an AR thing is, right? Where they you attach words to something and then like a Snapchat filter and it like floats around. That's what it looked like. It just was like like none of it was real. That entire scene was just the most fake thing I've ever seen. What was really cool, and I wish he was in here right now, but R.J. Palmer, I believe that's his name. He's the guy that got brought on to, I don't know if it's like to help consult or help design the more realistic features of the Pokemon. In that trailer, the in-universe trailer that shows up on when you're on Clifford's train, because it's his train and his city and everything, they have like a little trailer of the city that they're about to go to, right? And they're like, oh, the world of Pokemon, right? And like there's, in the real movie, there's like Charmanders walking up and like Squirtle's, doing Squirtle things, right? Like the version that I saw had just like a slideshow kind of thing, and it showed a bunch of his art. Like it just panned over a bunch of his art. I remember, I don't think I knew he was gonna be in it. So I was like, they just jacked that guy's fan art. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, they're just stealing his fan art. Which, a lot of this movie was, like, filled with music that wasn't in the final movie. Like, they used Tron music, like, the Daft Punk Tron music. A ton of it wasn't in the final movie. And so just, like, lots of, like, after the slideshow, there was the Pokemon Superbowl commercial, which they actually remade in the movie. So in my version, it was just the Superbowl commercial, which is the one where like the trainer like is out in the field, and then there's like another trainer, and they have like a Gyarados and Arcanine, right? That is just, they just showed that normal trailer, and then they followed it up with in the real movie like a recreated version of it, which I thought was super cool. I think I saw a Japanese post on Twitter, and I'm not sure. I think the actor in the remade version of the final movie, I think he's one of the dub voices. So that was kind of like his cameo. But they recreated that scene, which I thought was super cool. Charizard looks great. Like, I'm so happy with how Charizard looks, especially now. But in the version that I saw, he had like big eyes, because he has no textures and no lighting, right? So he has like big eyes. It was like, oh no, Charizard, no. And like, I don't even remember if Gengar was even in it. Like, the Apom, maybe in like 1 or 2 scenes were in, but the Apom were like drawings. Like someone hand animated all the Apom attack, right? So like when they're all like, you know, crawling through things and stuff like that, it was just a hand animated drawing. Which I thought was super cool. I got to basically see a 2D, like a Roger Rabbit, like, you know, people keep comparing it to Roger Rabbit. I got to see like an actual Roger Rabbit section of the movie, which I thought was pretty cool. Oh, when Tim is, I mean, this is obvious, but it just incredibly obvious now to me. But when Tim is like on Charizard's tail and like flying around and stuff, or when Tim and Lucy and Pikachu are running through the Torterra forest, they are so CG, and like their entire bodies are CG, like the most wonky animation ever. Like I mean, unfinished. Like it wasn't gonna stay wonky forever. I'm not dumb. I know how that works. But just watching it, it was so cheesy, right? Another like hilarious scene. Okay, so they're in the Torterra forest, and that scene was like very done compared to a lot of scenes. Them as like people wasn't done. Like they were still like CG people. Like when they're all running through the forest and stuff. Like a lot of that was hard to watch, but it was done enough, more so than the train scene in my opinion at that point. It was done enough to understand what was going on. Like that the ground was breaking up and it was like all, it was all Inception, right? Like the world is folding over, right? Like that was super easy to understand. But then when you got when you got to the parts where it was Torterra and it like zooms out to show the entire Torterra, it was back to paper cutouts. Oh my god, like like this, like, you know, like the epic music and stuff, and you just see like little paper cutouts of Torterra like this. The audience lost it. Holy crud. We could not stop laughing. I'm pretty sure we missed like bits and pieces after that. We couldn't hear anything. We were laughing forever over that. It was so funny. Speaking of funny, I went to this movie blind. I said this earlier, but I didn't see any trailers. I didn't know anything about the movie. I was nervous about the trailers for this movie because, yes, you know, like, you know, I went to Star Wars Episode 8 without seeing a single trailer, right? I'm going to go into 9 with only seeing the teaser trailer, right? Like, I don't watch trailers. I generally just go into something blind and experience it fresh. Not only did I not see any trailers, but I didn't know anything about this movie. Like, again, seeing the Pokemon, I only saw Pokemon in real life, right? Seconds before the movie started. Like, just, I will never get back that experience. That was the coolest thing, okay? So, when the Mr. Mime scene happened, okay, I don't remember laughing harder than that in a very long time. I am so disappointed that scene was in trailers. I told people, whenever a new trailer would come out, I wouldn't let them watch let them watch the Mr. Mime scenes. Like, I was like, you can't watch it. I'm sorry, you just can't. Like, you have to not know about this scene. You have to not know what the jokes are. People on Twitter have been, like, mad. They're like, oh, they ruined all the best Mr. Mime scenes. They did. They really did. The part where he's like, again, spoilers, get out of here. I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to, like, you know, be the one to spoil this for you. When he's, like, on the bike, because no one knew that was going to happen. No one knew he was going to pantomime stuff, right? Like, yeah, we knew he was going to be silent, right? But we didn't know they were going to, like, grill him, and we didn't know he was going to, like, do anything other than the barriers and not talk, right? So when he's, like, running, my screen froze for a second, so I'm stopping. Okay, when he was, like, running, instantly everyone started laughing. When he got on the bike, everyone was like, oh my god, like, this is the greatest thing. And then when he fell off the bike and, like, you know, Ryan Reynolds is, like, commenting on everything, people just, you know, like, the kind of laughing where sound is not coming out anymore, like tears. It was so funny. Oh my god. And then, like, you know, fast forward a little bit and, like, the gasoline and stuff like that. My god, that was the funniest scene in a movie I have seen. It was like a payoff for being a Pokemon fan, right? Like, we know who Mr. Mime is. We know he's kind of creepy, right? Like, I don't think he's creepy, but like, first time seeing him in CG, and he was probably one of the more finished things in the movie at that point. Like, I feel like Mr. Mime was finished, or mostly finished. Not mostly finished. Gotten to the point where it needed to be rendered, right? And then, like, the beginning reveal of Pikachu was pretty decent. And then, like, the opening scene. Those were, like, the scenes that were the most finished, right? So, so we got to, like, fully experience that, right? And I was so excited for people to see it. I'm so disappointed. So here's the thing. Detective Pikachu trailers spoiled as much as every other movie, which is everything. Every movie spoils everything, especially the closer you get. The problem with the Detective Pikachu trailers is that they were good. Everybody wanted to watch them. Like, I don't blame people for watching them, but I also don't sympathize with people who are upset that they spoiled everything. But I also sympathize with people who are upset that movie trailers spoil things. All three are true at the same time. The dialogue that got cut, I'm not touching the dialogue that got cut. That's going to be separate because I have a video for that. So, I can talk about it for a second. There is a joke that was in my version of the movie that isn't in the final version of the movie that would be in the R-rated cut if the R-rated cut existed. And I have that joke still. But that joke is, I would butcher it if I said it now, but I have a recording of that joke, not from the movie though. So that's what I will leave you with. So not leave this video, but leave you with that tease for when I make the next video. There were things in the movie that I believe were cut, and my friend also believes were cut, that didn't make it into the movie, and it's kind of obvious why they didn't make it into the movie. So, the scene where they're driving up, right? They're driving up to the laboratory, and there's a fence there, okay? They get out, and Lucy starts cutting the fence. And I rewatched it again, and I paid attention, and I was like, did I miss it? Did I miss it? And because I was kind of like, like, as the movie was going, I was kind of like quoting the movie in my head. I'm like, oh, this is the part where this happens. This is the part where this happens. I remember and it's funny because, like, in the movie, it just cuts right past the part where I remember. Like, where I would think it would happen, it just cuts to a different part. So I'm like, I think it was in there. I totally think it was in there. I just didn't get confirmation for it. Lucy's cutting it. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm just cutting the fence, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, in the version that I saw, he's like, how did you know it wasn't electric? And she said, I didn't. And, like, that's supposed to be a joke. And I don't remember if someone comments on that afterwards. But I imagine if that did exist, which I think it did, and so does my friend, and I was waiting for it every single time, and I think I just, like, was paying attention too hard and missed it, whatever else. I think it was taken out because, like, that's dangerous. And this is a kid's movie. So I think that was taken out, right? So there's, if you've been waiting this entire time, there's one thing that wasn't in the movie that I believe I saw, okay? The other thing, and I have seen people talk about this, seeing something weird. And because they saw something weird, it gave me confidence to be like, okay, no, totally. I was pretty sure this happened in my version 7 months ago. But now that people are like, that scene was weird, I'm like, I think it did. And I think it did cause the scene to be weird. When Pikachu and everybody are, like, on the Torterra, and they're, like, in the clear, and then Pikachu gets hit by a rock, in the final movie, the scene transitions very weird, because a big boulder is coming down, and then it switches to Pikachu. The boulder passes Pikachu, and then a little pebble, like, hits Pikachu. And then Pikachu is, like, near death. In my version, the boulder hits Pikachu. Like, I think. Again, this is memory. I didn't know what I would have had to remember to see differently in the movie. Like, I didn't know what I had to memorize for it to be cut. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't expect things to be cut, right? So, in my version, it's a boulder hits Pikachu in the head. All right? I can concede a little bit that maybe the boulder hit Pikachu in like the body instead of the head. But it was the boulder for sure. I swear by that, because I remember watching it, the final version, and I'm like, oh, here comes the boulder. And then I'm like, I don't remember the boulder, like... First of all, I don't remember the boulder rolling past Pikachu. Second of all, I don't remember, like, a second thing hitting Pikachu. And it very clearly, the scene before is, like, a boulder, like, center of the screen, like, lunging for the screen, right? Yeah. But then it was just, like, a tiny little pebble, and just, like, near-death Pikachu. I'm like, no, a boulder would make you near-death. Okay, probably a pebble, too. Like, let's be honest, in real life, a pebble would do that. But, like, the impact isn't there, right? So those are the two of the 3 scenes that the test audiences got to see, that I got to see, that no one else got to see. Okay? The third scene is the in-between of the R-rated cut and the final cut, which I will talk about in a different video. Okay? So you'll have to, like, subscribe, follow for that stuff, because I just have to... I can't pull a live stream on that one. I have to, like, edit it and, splice it in. Let's see what else. I think that's it. It has been crazy to know about this forever. Right? It has been crazy to know about this movie, to have seen it in, like, the freshest eyes possible, for it not to have changed that much. Right? And then to keep as big of... I mean, like, I want to make sure I'm able to keep these secrets, because I want to be involved in this kind of stuff in the future, right? Oh yeah, so that's the other thing. It was a blast to see people theorize about this movie. I'm like, you guys are idiots. You don't know anything. Like, even if I didn't know anything about this movie, I know it's based on the game, right? Like, the Detective Pikachu game, I know it's gonna be... They're not gonna, further the lore of Pokemon in a forward direction. They're gonna fill out what's already existing, right? My God, it was so fun to watch people, like, bend over backwards to justify why the thing they wanted in the movie was gonna happen, right? Or the thing that they thought was cool was gonna happen. Or not that they thought was cool, because that's nothing wrong with thinking something's cool. But something they thought people would think was relevant. So, like, Sword and Shield news. So, like, oh, it's everything I'm gonna find is gonna be Sword and Shield stuff, right? So the beginning of the Detective Pikachu train was, like, reach here, reach there. Like, everybody's gonna be in here. Every single Pokemon. I'm like, they don't have the money for every single Pokemon. They don't have the time for every single Pokemon. They're not gonna have, like, a scene where just someone opens a floodgate and all 800 Pokemon just come out, right? Like, it just isn't gonna happen. But, people are, like, looking at posters and, like, this means that, this means that. Question, so the way you talk about it, it sounds like they didn't cut any whole scenes out of the final. Yes. Because I know they extended it, I wouldn't say, well, that's it. I don't think they really cut stuff, they just extended parts. The line that got cut, the big one, the R-rated one, R-rated, it's not, but it is mature, makes the scene weird where they cut it. And it is so obvious. When you finally hear what it is so obvious it's supposed to go there. Because there's the setup for the joke, and then they move on. One scene that I remember, so if someone's bailed, there's 5 less people. If someone's bailed, I'm sorry. But I just remembered a scene. In the montage on the train, there was more Ancient Mew stuff. Now, I don't remember, and I know there was even more Ancient Mew stuff, so I don't remember, like, if we saw all the Ancient Mew stuff. So, rewind. Elliot, name of the year. Yes, there was a cut scene. Yes, there was one. Now, I don't remember. So, when I went to the Q&A, he's like, this is the thing we cut. We cut Ancient Mew scenes, okay? And it was just in the trailer, in the in-universe trailer that happened on the way to Rhyme City in the train, okay? There was Ancient Mew scenes. Now, I do remember more backstory happening in the train scene. And I'm going to try to be as honest as possible. I have a human brain, though. In the trailer, the in-universe trailer, there were Ancient Mew scenes talking about his history, digging up stuff. And I remember thinking, for a split second, the way they presented it, that I was like, oh, did he was this a real, like, world, like Earth? And then they just discovered Pokemon 10 years ago? And this is just my thought process. So this isn't what I thought even like 5 minutes later. Like, I stopped thinking this right away. I'm just trying to tell you that I have a memory of Ancient Mew stuff. And that's what I remember thinking at the time. It was like, oh wait, did he like discover Ancient Mew stuff and then like create Pokemon? And I remember thinking that. So it doesn't make any sense to you guys. That's fine. I just need proof that I remember thinking that, because when I went to the director Q&A, he mentioned cutting out Ancient Mew stuff, and I remember being like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that because I got confused. And he's like, but it didn't make it into the movie. Now, I don't know if he was referring to he said it didn't make it that far. I should clarify. He said it didn't make it that far. And I don't know if he meant he didn't make it into the final, it didn't make it into, like, animation, or if it didn't make it into the test screenings. I don't know. But I remember seeing, like, the Ancient Mew, like, feather fossil, right? Do you know what I'm talking about? It's not a feather. It's like a tail hair or spine or something. But I remember seeing that. And that was what I said in my brain, because I got confused for a second. It has nothing to do with the movie. That's not true, the whole, like, they created Pokemon, whatever. I just remember thinking that for a split second. And I remember what I saw when I thought that. And I remember that not being in the final movie at all. So I think I did see the one cut bit of information. And I do kind of think the movie would have made a little bit more sense if they kept the Ancient Mew stuff. Alright. Good night, everybody. It's 4:19 a.m. That was a very long stream and very fun. I'll stream again soon.